The galaxy was on the edge of despair. War had raged for years between the Dominion, an empire of aliens whose technology was far beyond anything the galaxy had seen, and the Coalition, a diverse alliance of alien races struggling to stay afloat. The Dominion's forces were relentless, and one by one, the Coalition's strongholds fell. Their last bastion, a massive space station orbiting a dying planet, was surrounded. The station's shields flickered, barely holding off the Dominion's barrage. The last pockets of resistance were quickly being wiped out. In the heart of the Coalition's command center, alien leaders huddled around a table. Their faces were grim, and the weight of defeat hung heavily in the air. The leader of the Coalition, an alien named General Tarek, had just watched as his planet burned from an orbital bombardment. His species, once proud and powerful, was now facing total extinction. His heart sank as he looked at the remnants of his forces. The enemy was closing in. It was over. "Shall we surrender?" one of the council members asked, his voice barely above a whisper. No one answered immediately. The thought of surrender was bitter, but it was the only option left. Tarek stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the flickering holographic map of the galaxy. The Dominion's forces, countless ships and drones, were closing in from all directions. The countdown to surrender had begun. But then, an unexpected voice interrupted the silence. "We cannot give up," said Captain Cora, a young, determined leader of a small fleet. She stepped forward, her eyes wide with resolve. "We must ask for help. There is one place we haven't tried." The room fell silent as Cora's words hung in the air. She continued, "Earth." The mention of Earth caught everyone off guard. Most of the council members laughed, dismissing the idea immediately. Earth, a planet of humans, had always been seen as a primitive world, far behind in technology and power. The humans, with their outdated weapons and ancient technology, had never been a threat to anyone. Why would the Dominion fear them? But Cora, who had secretly observed humanity's progress, knew something the others didn't. She had studied the humans' rise. Over the years, Earth's military had quietly developed technology that rivaled, and even surpassed, much of the galaxy's best. They had developed stealth systems, artificial intelligence, and weaponry that could make a difference. The Coalition's last hope lay with these seemingly weak humans. "I know it sounds crazy," Cora said, "but Earth has something we don't: resolve, determination, and the power to defy the impossible. If we reach out to them, they may be our last hope." After much debate, the council reluctantly agreed. With no other option left, they sent a desperate distress signal. The transmission was brief, a simple message of hope. "Earth is our last hope." The scene then shifted to Earth, where life was continuing as usual. People were going about their daily routines, unaware of the galactic conflict that was unfolding far beyond their planet. The humans were blissfully ignorant, living on a world that many in the galaxy considered insignificant. But what the galaxy didn't know was that Earth was hiding a secret, one that would change the course of the war. Commander Ethan Rice, leader of Earth's military forces, stood before a vast holographic map of the galaxy. His face was calm, focused. His mind was far from the peaceful image the planet projected. For years, he and his team had been monitoring the galactic war, gathering information, learning from the strategies of both sides. Earth, despite being underestimated by everyone, had quietly been preparing for a day just like this. Rice, who had been leading the development of advanced technology for decades, was well aware of Earth's potential. In secret military facilities scattered across the planet, a fleet of warships had been built. Advanced ships equipped with cloaking devices, AI-controlled systems, and powerful experimental weapons. The humans had been biding their time, preparing for the moment when they would make their presence known. That moment had arrived. As the distress signal from the Coalition reached Earth, Rice didn't hesitate. He knew what needed to be done. The fleet, hidden from the eyes of the galaxy, was ready for deployment. The time had come for humanity to step into the spotlight. Rais looked at his team, his face resolute. "Prepare for the fight of our lives," he commanded. His voice was firm, filled with confidence that only someone who had seen both the challenges and triumphs of humanity could possess. The human fleet, consisting of dozens of ships, activated their cloaking systems, preparing to enter the war zone. The Dominion, unknowingly, had no idea what was coming. As the fleet of human warships emerged from their hidden location, cloaked and nearly invisible to the enemy sensors, a new chapter in the galactic war began. The humans were no longer just observers. They were now players in a game that would change the fate of the galaxy. The suspense built as the human fleet silently entered the galactic battlefield. What would happen when these primitive humans, so underestimated, unleashed their technological marvels? What impact would their arrival have on the tide of battle? No one knew yet, but one thing was clear. Earth was no longer just a distant, unimportant planet. Humanity had just declared their presence to the stars. As Reyes watched his fleet take position, a spark of hope ignited in the hearts of the coalition's leaders. For the first time in a long while, they had something to believe in. The humans were coming. The war was about to change. The vast expanse of space was quiet, a calm before the storm. The Dominion forces, confident in their near victory, continued their assault on the coalition's last stronghold. Their fleet, massive and intimidating, cruised through the war zone, prepared to finish what they had started. They had no idea that the tides of battle were about to change in ways they could never have anticipated. In the shadows of space, Earth's fleet had just emerged from hyperspace. The ships, sleek and black, glided silently into the battlefield. Cloaked and invisible to the Dominion's advanced sensors, they were undetectable until it was too late. For years, Earth had been underestimated, written off as a primitive planet, but humanity's secrets were now revealed. Commander Reyes stood at the helm of the lead ship, his eyes scanning the galaxy map before him. His face was calm, almost serene, but his mind was racing. The time had come to put everything on the line. The technology Earth had developed, cloaking devices, artificial intelligence, and powerful weaponry, was unlike anything the Dominion had ever encountered. And now, they were about to feel its power. As the fleet moved into position, Reyes gave the order: activate cloaking. Prepare for the strike. On his command, the human fleet's ships flickered momentarily, becoming completely invisible to the enemy's detection systems. They silently moved into the heart of the Dominion's forces, their weapons systems primed and ready. The Dominion's ships, massive and imposing, continued their assault on the coalition's last stronghold, unaware that the humans had already infiltrated their ranks. In the midst of the chaos, a Dominion officer, standing on the bridge of one of the alien warships, suddenly noticed an anomaly. A ship, sleek and black, appeared out of nowhere, a mere blur in the vastness of space. His eyes widened in disbelief as his sensors failed to lock onto the strange vessel. He opened his mouth to report the anomaly, but before he could speak, the human ship fired. The first salvo was quick and precise, striking the Dominion ship's outer shields with pinpoint accuracy. The ship shuddered under the blast, but the shields held. However, it was clear that something was different about these humans. They weren't like the ragtag forces of the Coalition, or the primitive civilizations the Dominion had crushed before. This was something new. Before the Dominion could react, Earth's fleet launched a full-scale assault. The human ships, nimble and quick, darted through the Dominion fleet with incredible precision. Their cloaking technology allowed them to move undetected, striking from unexpected angles. Each move was carefully planned, coordinated by the advanced AI systems integrated into the ships. The drones, launched from the human vessels, acted as a secondary force, targeting enemy ships and causing chaos within the Dominion ranks. Reyes' strategy was bold and daring. His plan was to disorient the Dominion's forces with rapid, calculated strikes. He wanted to disrupt their communication, break their lines, and make them question everything they thought they knew about war. The humans were not just fighting with advanced technology. They were using their wits, their unpredictability, and their courage. As the first wave of human ships attacked, the Dominion fleet began to falter. Their massive warships, once confident in their overwhelming firepower, were suddenly outmaneuvered and outsmarted. The humans weren't just attacking. They were testing the limits of the Dominion's technology, pushing them to the edge of their capabilities. The Dominion forces, accustomed to controlling the battlefield, began to panic. Their fleet, once the most powerful in the galaxy, was now facing a force unlike any they had ever encountered. The confusion spread like wildfire, and for the first time in the war, the Dominion leaders felt the sting of uncertainty. They had never anticipated that Earth, a planet they thought of as nothing more than a backwater, would rise to challenge them. "Report," shouted the Dominion general, his voice tight with panic. His officer scanned the battle data and reported in a trembling voice. "Sir, the humans, they're using technology far beyond anything we've seen before. Their ships are cloaked, and their weapons." He stopped mid-sentence, his mind struggling to process the data. "They're outflanking us from every direction. We're losing control of the battlefield." The general's eyes narrowed in disbelief. How? How could they be using such advanced technology? No one could have developed such a fleet in secret. The officer swallowed hard. "We don't know, sir. But they're overwhelming us. Our ships are being disabled one by one. We can't even track their movements." Back on Earth's lead ship, Reyes observed the unfolding battle with a calm intensity. His fleet was executing their strategy flawlessly. But this was just the beginning. The Dominion's panic was palpable. They were beginning to realize that humanity was not the weak, primitive species they had always thought. The humans were a force to be reckoned with, and they were far more dangerous than the Dominion could have ever imagined. As the battle raged on, Reyes gave the order for the second phase of the attack. The cloaked ships dropped out of invisibility, revealing their full power. The Dominion, already on the back foot, now had to face the full force of Earth's advanced weaponry. The human fleet unleashed a barrage of devastating firepower, targeting the heart of the Dominion's central fleet. Explosions rocked the Dominion warships as Earth's ships continued their precise and relentless assault. Each strike was delivered with surgical precision, exploiting every weakness in the Dominion's defenses. The once mighty alien empire, which had swept across the galaxy with ruthless efficiency, was now on the defensive, struggling to adapt to the unpredictable and unrelenting humans. The humans had turned the tide of the battle in a matter of hours. The Dominion was no longer the dominant force in the galaxy. Humanity had proven that they were not to be underestimated. As the human fleet moved deeper into the heart of the Dominion forces, the future of the galaxy hung in the balance. Would the humans be able to defeat the mighty Dominion and secure their place in the galaxy? Or would the alien empire, battered and bruised, strike back with a vengeance? One thing was clear. The war was far from over, but Earth had just delivered a powerful message. The underdogs had arrived, and they weren't going down without a fight. The battle was far from over. The Dominion, now fully aware of the threat humanity posed, began to push back with all its might. Their fleet, though battered and bruised, still outnumbered the human forces by a wide margin. Massive waves of enemy warships poured into the battlefield, forcing the humans to defend every inch of space they had gained. Despite their technological advancements and strategic superiority, the human fleet was slowly being overwhelmed. The Dominion's forces were relentless, their ships flooding the skies with weapon fire, making it almost impossible for Earth's fleet to maintain their ground. The humans, vastly outnumbered and outgunned, found themselves in a desperate struggle for survival. Commander Rice watched from the bridge of his ship, his face a mask of determination. His crew was exhausted, their resources running low, but they refused to give in. They had come too far to retreat now. Earth's people had always been seen as weak, unimportant, just a primitive species on a backwater planet. But now, the Dominion was learning that humanity was capable of things they had never imagined. Yet, even with their powerful weapons and advanced cloaking technology, The human fleet was no match for the overwhelming numbers of the Dominion. They needed something more, something that could turn the tide in their favor once and for all. That's when Reyes received word from his engineers. They had been working on something in secret, a weapon powerful enough to change the course of the war. It was a massive energy cannon, capable of disabling entire fleets with a single shot. However, the weapon came with a grave risk. To activate it, they would have to get within range of the Dominion's flagship, which was heavily guarded by an armada of warships. It was a suicide mission, but it was their only hope. Reyes didn't hesitate. He gathered a small team of soldiers and engineers, handpicking the best of the best, to board one of the Dominion's smaller vessels. Their mission was simple, but dangerous. Infiltrate the enemy flagship and disable its defense systems, allowing the cannon to fire. It was a high-risk operation that could cost them everything. But the stakes were clear. If they failed, humanity's last hope would be lost. As the team prepared for the mission, the air was thick with tension. Everyone knew the odds were stacked against them. The Dominion's forces were closing in on all sides, and the humans were outnumbered. Yet there was something in their eyes, something that had kept them fighting despite the impossible odds. They were underdogs, yes, but they were not weak. They had something that the Dominion didn't, the will to fight for their survival. Commander Reyes stood at the doorway of the shuttle, looking at his team one last time. His voice was steady, but there was a weight to his words. We do this for Earth, for everyone we love. We're the last line of defense. No matter what happens, we don't stop fighting. The shuttle doors closed, and they were off. As the shuttle hurtled through space, Reyes's mind was focused. The mission was clear, but his heart was heavy with the knowledge that not all of them would make it back. They had all known the risks, but now, the reality of it was settling in. They were about to face the heart of the Dominion's war machine. When they arrived at the Dominion flagship's orbit, the team was met with a terrifying sight. The flagship, surrounded by a wall of enemy ships, loomed like a massive fortress. It was impenetrable, guarded by layers of shields and defense systems that would tear them apart before they even got close. But Reyes had a plan. He ordered the shuttle to make a series of sharp maneuvers, dodging incoming fire from the Dominion ships. It was a gamble, a risky move that could end in disaster, but it was the only way they could make it to the flagship undetected. As they closed in on their target, their hearts raced, knowing that they were on the edge of a precipice. Then, disaster struck. As they approached the flagship, one of the shuttle's engines was hit. The ship shuddered violently, and a loud crash echoed through the hull. The team was thrown to the ground, but they quickly regained their footing. Reyes's voice came through the comms, steady and calm despite the chaos. We're not turning back. Get to the flagship. Now. With no other choice, they pushed forward. The shuttle, damaged but still functional, limped its way toward the flagship, weaving between enemy ships. Every second felt like an eternity as they neared their target. They were close, so close, but the closer they got, the more intense the fire from the Dominion became. The enemy knew they were coming, and they were willing to do anything to stop them. In the chaos, one of the soldiers, Bonner, a man who had fought alongside Reyes from the beginning, saw the danger. A blast from an enemy ship was heading straight for their shuttle, and it would tear them apart if it hit. Without a second thought, Bonner rushed to the front of the shuttle, knowing that someone needed to take the hit in order to save the team. Bonner, no. Reyes shouted, but it was too late. Bonner, with a fierce look in his eyes, activated the shuttle's shields, pushing them to the max. But the impact was too much. The shuttle was torn apart, and Bonner was killed instantly. The remaining team members were left in stunned silence. Bonner's sacrifice had saved them, but at a great cost. Reyes, his heart heavy with grief, clenched his fists. Bonner had died for the mission, for Earth, for all of humanity. His death became a turning point, a reminder of the stakes they were fighting for. They couldn't let his sacrifice be in vain. With renewed determination, the team pushed forward. They boarded the Dominion flagship, fighting their way through waves of enemy soldiers. Every step brought them closer to their objective, but the cost was mounting. The Dominion forces were relentless, and the odds were still stacked against them. As they finally reached the heart of the flagship, Reyes's voice echoed in the chaos. "We finish this now. For Bonner. For Earth." With one final push, they activated the energy cannon. The blast was devastating, shaking the very foundations of the Dominion fleet. The flagship's defenses crumbled, and the energy cannon fired its deadly shot, disabling the heart of the Dominion's forces. The battlefield fell silent as the Dominion flagship was destroyed, and the human fleet struck with renewed vigor. The underdog had risen, and the tides of the war were about to change forever. Rice's team had one mission: infiltrate the Dominion flagship, plant the explosive device, and get out alive. The odds were against them: heavily guarded corridors, enemy soldiers at every corner, and state-of-the-art surveillance systems tracking every movement. But they had trained for this, and now it was time to act. The team suited up in their stealth gear, specially designed cloaking suits that made them nearly invisible to the naked eye and enemy sensors. With a deep breath, Rice gave the order: "Move out." As they made their way through the darkened passageways of the Dominion flagship, the silence was almost deafening. Their footsteps were muffled by the soft padding of their boots, but their hearts were pounding in their chests, knowing that one wrong move could lead to their demise. Every shadow seemed to stretch into a potential threat, and the soft hum of the flagship's engines reverberated through the metal walls. The first obstacle came quickly: a group of Dominion soldiers, heavily armored and armed with advanced energy rifles, appeared in a narrow hallway. They were on patrol, but they had no idea that the humans were already within their reach. Rice motioned for his team to take cover, holding their breath as the soldiers passed within inches of their hiding spots. Time seemed to freeze. Once the soldiers were gone, they continued their trek, but the tension was palpable. The deeper they went, the more dangerous it became. The ship was a fortress, and its security was second to none. Every corner, every room, seemed to be filled with a new challenge. Their next obstacle was far worse. As they moved toward the heart of the ship, they encountered Dominion robots, massive metallic creatures designed for both combat and security. These machines were relentless, equipped with advanced weapons and an unblinking focus on protecting the flagship. Rice's team had no choice but to engage them in close combat. The clash was deafening. The sound of metal scraping against metal, the hiss of energy weapons firing, and the frantic shouts of the team filled the hallway. Rice's heart raced as he parried an attack from one of the robots, his pulse quickening with each moment of danger. A blinding flash of light illuminated the narrow corridor as weapons discharged from both sides, sending sparks flying in every direction. The team fought with everything they had, using their superior agility and training to outmaneuver the robots. But the machines were relentless, their powerful limbs swinging and smashing into the walls, trying to crush the humans beneath them. One by one, the team took down the mechanical monsters, each kill making their hearts beat faster, but their time was running out. With the hallway cleared, they pressed on, knowing that their objective was within reach. Rice's mind was focused entirely on the mission: plant the explosive device, trigger the detonation, and get out. But as they reached the final chamber, something unexpected happened. A Dominion commander, clad in heavy armor and carrying a massive energy blade, appeared before them, blocking their way. His cold, calculating eyes met Reyes's, and a silent understanding passed between them. The commander knew exactly what they were doing. He wasn't going to let them succeed. Without a word, the commander lunged forward, swinging his energy blade in a powerful arc. Rice narrowly dodged the strike, the blade slicing through the air with a hum. His team reacted quickly, pulling out their weapons and launching a coordinated counterattack. The hallway was filled with the deafening sound of gunfire and the crackle of energy weapons. The Dominion commander was a force to be reckoned with. He moved with precision and strength, his energy blade cutting through the air like a hot knife through butter. The humans tried to fight back, but the commander's speed and power were overwhelming. Rise, despite his best efforts, found himself on the defensive. Every time he swung his weapon, the commander effortlessly parried it, his blade flashing as it moved. A few tense moments passed, and it felt like the fight would go on forever. Rise was running out of options. He knew the mission had to succeed. There was no time to waste. The explosive device needed to be detonated, but getting past the commander was a nightmare. As the commander raised his blade for a final strike, Rise made a split-second decision. With a burst of adrenaline, he dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the commander's deadly blow. He grabbed the detonator from his belt and, with a quick motion, triggered the countdown. The explosive device would detonate in minutes, but the commander wasn't finished yet. In one fluid motion, the Dominion commander turned and lunged, aiming to strike Rise down before he could escape. The energy blade shot toward him, and Rise felt the rush of wind as it passed just inches from his face. But Rise wasn't ready to give up yet. He fought back with everything he had, using the last of his strength to land a powerful blow. With a resounding crash, the commander's blade shattered, and the commander himself was thrown back, stumbling and dazed. Rise took the moment of distraction to grab his team and make a break for it. They had completed their mission. Now they had to escape before it was too late. As the team sprinted through the narrow hallways, the countdown to detonation echoed in their ears. Every step felt like it was their last. The tension was unbearable as they neared the shuttle bay. The sound of enemy soldiers' footsteps grew louder, and the air was thick with the scent of danger. But the team was determined. They couldn't let all of this be for nothing. With seconds to spare, they reached the shuttle and rushed inside, the hatch sealing behind them with a loud thud. Rise looked around at his team, each of them breathing heavily, their faces grim but filled with determination. The countdown was nearing its end. As the shuttle shot away from the Dominion flagship, the explosive device detonated, sending shockwaves through the ship. The flagship was rocked by the blast, and its defenses crumbled. The Dominion fleet was thrown into chaos, and the humans had succeeded in their mission. But even as they escaped, Rise knew that this was only the beginning. The war wasn't over, but with each victory they were getting closer to the end. And with that, the humans would prove once and for all that even the smallest, weakest species could change the course of history. The air was charged with the electric energy of anticipation as the human fleet emerged victorious from their daring infiltration. The destruction of the Dominion flagship had sent ripples of chaos through the alien armada. Their once unshakable confidence now wavered, their highly organized forces scattering in disarray. The human fleet, emboldened by the success of their covert strike, moved forward with newfound strength, their resolve solidified. Commander Ethan Reyes stood at the helm of his flagship, watching the unfolding chaos on the holographic display before him. The once formidable Dominion fleet was now a shattered shadow of its former self. Ships, once proud and towering, were now retreating or sinking into destruction as humanity's advanced weaponry cut through them with ruthless efficiency. The human fleet's strategy was simple yet devastating. Their ships, armed with high-tech weapons and cloaking technology, engaged the Dominion with brutal precision. Human warships, sleek and swift, swooped in and unleashed a torrent of firepower. Each shot found its mark, tearing through the enemy's defenses and sending massive explosions into the void of space. The sky above them, once clear and serene, was now filled with the violent spectacle of war. Explosions illuminated the dark expanse, a relentless rain of fire and destruction. Orbital bombardments rained down on the Dominion's positions on the surface of their planets, leveling cities and military installations in a fiery storm. It was a visual masterpiece of chaos and triumph. The human fleet pushed forward with unwavering determination, their ships cutting through the Dominion's scattered defenses with brutal efficiency. Their weapons, once thought to be inferior, were now proving their worth. The tide of the battle had shifted, and humanity was taking the upper hand. As the human forces advanced deeper into the Dominion's territory, the remaining Dominion forces, who had once relied on their AI-driven machines to dominate the battlefield, now found themselves struggling to keep up. These AI machines, once their most powerful weapons, were no match for the resourcefulness and tenacity of humanity. Human soldiers, equipped with powerful weapons and sharp instincts, systematically dismantled the machines. With each falling machine, the Dominion's grip on the war weakened. The AI that had once been their greatest asset was now their greatest liability. Humanity had proven, once and for all, that there was no substitute for human ingenuity, courage, and determination. As the battle raged on, Commander Reyes couldn't help but feel a strange mix of triumph and sorrow. They had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, but the cost of victory was high. Every victory on the battlefield had come with a heavy price, and many of his closest allies had fallen in the heat of the conflict. Reyes thought of Bonner, his brave soldier who had sacrificed everything for this cause. Bonner's death had been a defining moment in the mission, and Reyes couldn't shake the image of his fallen comrade. It had been Bonner who had made the ultimate sacrifice, ensuring that the team succeeded in planting the explosive device that would bring down the Dominion flagship. His loss left a hollow ache in Reyes's heart. As the final moments of the battle approached, Reyes found himself standing on the bridge of his ship, staring out at the stars. The victory was theirs, but the emotional toll weighed heavily on his soul. It was a bittersweet moment, a victory tempered by loss. He had fought for humanity's survival, for the future of his people, but in doing so, he had lost so much along the way. He looked at the faces of his remaining crew, each of them exhausted, bloodied, and broken, yet determined to see this war through to the end. The sacrifice of so many soldiers, including Bonner, had brought them here, to this final victory. The weight of their loss was evident in their eyes, but so was the unbreakable spirit that had carried them through this war. Reyes's voice was low, but his words carried the weight of 1,000 battles. This was for everyone we've lost. This is the future we fight for. As the last remnants of the Dominion fleet crumbled under the relentless assault of the human forces, Reyes's thoughts turned to the future. The war wasn't over, but humanity had made a statement. They had proven that no matter the odds, no matter how overwhelming the enemy, they would rise, they would fight, and they would win. The final explosion shook the very stars above them, signaling the end of the Dominion's reign and the beginning of a new era. The humans had done it. They had defeated the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. But even in the wake of their hard-fought victory, Reyes knew that their struggle was far from over. There would always be new threats, new challenges. But humanity had proven something vital, that they were a force to be reckoned with, and they would never back down. As the human fleet began its journey home, Reyes allowed himself a moment of reflection. They had won, but at a great cost. His thoughts drifted to Bonner, to the countless others who had given their lives in the name of this victory. Their names would never be forgotten. The journey was far from over, but one thing was certain. The future of humanity was brighter than ever. And with each new challenge, they would face it together, united in their fight for survival, freedom, and the hope of a better tomorrow. The final echoes of battle faded into silence as the last remnants of the Dominion fleet crumbled under the weight of humanity's relentless assault. The once proud empire that had ruled with fear and intimidation was now reduced to nothing more than a broken shell, retreating into the vast reaches of space. The war, which had seemed like a lost cause for humanity just weeks before, was over. The Dominion had been defeated. Across the galaxy, the coalition forces, once fragmented, now united, celebrated an unexpected victory. The news of humanity's triumph spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the galaxy. The once dismissed humans, seen as nothing more than primitive underdogs, had not only held their own, but had single-handedly brought down one of the most powerful empires the galaxy had ever known. The victory had come at a heavy cost. Many lives had been lost, many families torn apart, but despite the tragedy, there was a sense of unity and hope that had never existed before. Humanity had proven that even against overwhelming odds, they could rise. They had proven that they were capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with the greatest powers in the galaxy. On Earth, celebrations erupted. People took to the streets, cheering and dancing, celebrating the victory that had seemed impossible. Flags flew high, and the world came together as one, united in their triumph. For the first time in history, humanity had earned its place among the stars. Commander Ethan Reyes stood on the balcony of the military headquarters, gazing out over the celebrations below. The weight of the victory, and the sacrifices it had cost, rested heavily on his shoulders. He had seen his friends fall in battle, and he knew that the world they were now celebrating wasn't a perfect one. There was still work to be done, still challenges ahead. But for the first time, there was hope. A hope that had been all but extinguished during the darkest days of the war. Reyes was soon called to a special ceremony, one that would mark the end of the war and the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's history. The coalition leaders, representatives from every allied species, gathered together to honor the victory and acknowledge the role that humanity had played in securing it. As Reyes stepped onto the stage, a hush fell over the assembly. His face, weathered and tired from the battles he had fought, looked out at the sea of faces. Some were filled with gratitude, others with admiration. But all were united in one common belief. Humanity had proven its worth. With a deep breath, Reyes addressed the gathered leaders, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "We stand here today, not as victors, but as survivors. We fought not just for our own survival, but for the survival of everyone who believes in peace and freedom. And while today we celebrate our victory, we must never forget the sacrifices that made it possible. For every soldier, every civilian, every friend and family member who gave their life for this cause, we honor them today." The crowd erupted in applause, the sound deafening. Reyes paused, letting the moment wash over him before continuing. "This victory is not just for humanity. It is for everyone who stands against tyranny, for everyone who believes that the galaxy can be a place of peace and cooperation. We have earned the right to be part of that future, and it is a future we will build together." The applause grew louder, echoing through the hall. Reyes's words had struck a chord with everyone present. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were now an equal among the stars, with a future to shape and a legacy to build. As the ceremony came to an end, the representatives of the galactic species turned to each other, whispering in awe. In the days that followed, the coalition, once divided and skeptical of humanity's potential, began to come together under a unified banner. The galaxy was no longer divided by distrust and fear, but united by a shared vision of a future where peace and cooperation could thrive. Humanity, with its newfound place in the galactic community, was invited to join the Galactic Council. This prestigious invitation, once a distant dream, was now a reality. Earth, once considered an insignificant backwater, was now a key player in the future of the galaxy. The Council offered humanity a seat at the table, recognizing their vital role in the peace process and in ensuring that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. As Reyes sat in a meeting room with the leaders of the galaxy's various species, he couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them here. He thought of the soldiers who had fallen, the families who had lost everything, and the countless sacrifices that had been made. It was a heavy burden to bear, but it was one that he carried with pride. He stood up, looking around at the leaders of the galaxy, and spoke once more. "We've earned our place here, but this is just the beginning. The galaxy is vast, and there are still many challenges ahead. Our fight for peace and freedom doesn't end here. It will continue because that's what we do. We fight for the future. And together, we will ensure that this future is one where all species, all people, can live in peace." As the meeting adjourned, Reyes left the room, a sense of purpose in his heart. The future was uncertain, but humanity had proven that they could face any challenge, and with the allies they had gained, there was no limit to what they could accomplish. But even as they celebrated their victory, a post-credits scene flashed across the screen, showing an ominous, dark shape moving through the galaxy. It was an unknown force, a new threat that loomed on the horizon, one that even humanity's advanced technology might struggle to face. The screen faded to black, and the chilling words appeared. The battle is far from over. The future was not yet written, but humanity had earned its place in the stars, and whatever came next, they would face it together.